Doctor's cat for the drive.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, and you know.
Oh, yeah. Nice and wild.
Let me tell you, and it's a trip, too, because I get to consult adult entertainment clubs as well as DJ in one. And like I tell you guys, it's a trip, man. When you go into a set and you got some lifeless girl who can barely walk across the stage in high heels, you play something like All Shucks, you know? Or you pull out the Peach Boys, Don't Make Me Wait, and she's on stage, what is this shit? This generation has no clue about it. And that was the majority of the reason why I bothered you so much around the holidays, Armando. Let's do this shit now before it gets so lost, before nobody knows about BMX, nobody even can recollect half the songs, because in 10, 15 years, look, man, we're going to be falling apart pretty soon. We ain't going to look
I'm
as good.
starting to fall
Yeah,
apart
we ain't
now.
gonna look as good as we look now, you know?
I got a question for both of you, Armando and Lee, both. Answer me seriously. Could a station like that ever happen again?
Yes.
Yeah,
with the right mix, the right marketing approach that would fit today. Could you take that old sound and just move it to 2006? Probably not. But I think the philosophy, the attitude, the right mix for what's happening today, yeah.
Okay.
You just got to have some hair on your balls and willing to do it.
If it's that easy, why hasn't anyone done it then?
Because the programmers and management and owners are brain dead for the last 20 years. They're all stuck in a vacuum. Well, what is this guy doing? And you got to remember, corporate radio today, we were independents, man. We were fighting for our lives, for our, just to survive. Now, you've got a VP of programming or a regional PD in a format that basically carves out the sound of the company, and the PDs follow. The PDs today are not the same PD that existed 25 years ago. We were creative. We had to come up with ideas. We had to
on no budget.
Yeah, zero-based budget. But now you get a budget, and you basically, the contest and promotion is created for you, and it give you a memo, and this is how it's implemented. You do it at this time, and boom, 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 boom.
What was the budget for BMX? I know we didn't give away nothing.
Well,
couldn't even get a damn pencil.
Before we blew up, we had no budget, and we would just come up with money based on ideas. I didn't get a $500,000 budget a year. It was, I would create something, I'd go to Kearney Anderson, he'd go to the owner, and the owner said, yeah, okay, well, I'll give you $20,000, and okay, here's let's trade out the bus signs, and trade out a little TV, and and that was it. We'll buy some T-shirts and some bumper stickers, and wish for the best.
Yeah.
But right before we went from that, Armando, what was it before the 6-9 or 7 share, whatever it was? What do we have, like a 4 or something?
Yeah.
We went from a 4 share to a 7 share in like one book. What happened in that magical book was several things. We really tightened up the mixes, and everything was really gelling at that time, number one. Number two, we did research, audience research, perceptual studies. We did focus groups. We did the whole weekly music studies. And we were playing the hottest shit alive at that point. The jocks were on point. The promotions were on point. We were a great sounding radio station. And it all came together at the same time. I went down to Miami. Kearney Anderson, Marlene Donovan, and myself met with the owner of the station in his living room. And I jumped up and down on his coffee table. I told him I needed $1 million budget to compete with GCI. GCI had $1 million a year. Okay? Exactly. I had $1 million, and I wanted to match him. I said, if you give me $1 million, I'll beat him. He goes, what are you going to do with $1 million? I said, just give me the budget. I'll come up with something. I've always come up with some ideas. I need the $1 million. He says, well, let's look at the ratings. And this is a very, very valuable lesson that I learned out of this meeting. We pulled out the Arbitron. We had a 600,000 cume. They had like a 800 $25,000 or something like that. He says, you know, I understand you want to give away $1 million or do whatever you want to do with it. He said, but you got 600,000 cume here. He said, young man, if you can get them to listen 50% more, you won't need $1 million. He said, but if you do that, I'll give you $1 million budget the next time around. I said, well, I'll tell you what, in order for me to make these people listen longer, and I understand the concept you're talking about, longer time spent listening. Take the 600,000 and double the time spent listening, you're through the roof. And by virtue of doing that, how do you do that? You make the station sound better. Make it more listenable. Okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel listening to radio. He said, what I'll do is I'll give you the money for the research. And you want to hire this guy? Okay, let's hire that guy. Do whatever you're going to do with that. So he gave me about $300,000 worth of research. That, my friend, made the big difference. It took us from a good sounding radio station to a great radio station. And I learned, I've never forgotten that. Okay, you've got a basket of fruit here. Make it look prettier. Move the oranges around, the apples over here, and just make it a better basket of fruit.
So it's product first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always. Regardless of the format, the product is what you're selling. That's your service. So that's what we did.
And the key thing to me is that you could go directly to the owner.
Yeah, yeah. It was
the man who says yes or no.
That's it.
No red tape, no Wall Street radio.
Yeah, I didn't have to go to sit down with a spreadsheet and do projections for the next 12 months, and we're going to spend $15,000 for this and $12,000 for that and $100,000. No, what do you need? It was the old school way.
No, was BMX from the money standpoint? When you got there, do you even remember what the billing was the year, and then to the 85 year, what the difference in billing was?
Yeah. I want to say that we peaked around $12 million a year, $1 million a month. I remember hitting the first $1 million month. It was a big deal for us. No, before 86. Before. Yeah. $1 million month. Now GCI had $1 million months. They were doing 18 million, 15, 18, 19 million during those days, and we went from 7 or 8 million to 12 million to 13 to 14. I think the 13, 14 was the most that it made while I was there.
And it was as an independently owned.
Yeah,
as an independently owned radio station, as opposed to GCI, which had Gannett, which had newspapers all over the face of the earth.
And they had the best national rep firm representing them for national dollars. Anybody that we had was secondary to Interrep was a rep firm that repped Gannett at the time. But they had all the the best clients, the best advertising. They could get the Budweiser, and we had to beg for Budweiser. They had 13 stations in their group. We had one, AM and FM. So they had the clout. They could make it happen.
So now, after getting back, so you came back the second time.
Right.
You only hung out for about a year, right?
A little over a year, I think it was, yeah.
And then you took off, went to New York?
No, I left there. I kind of retired, went on a little sabbatical, bought a boat, and that was in '88. Left right before September '88.
And that's when Barry's group came in and they flipped to NUA, right? Smooth.
Did you explain about Durton Broadcasting?
Yes.
Oh, you already went through that. Okay, all right. I came in late. All right.
Yeah. That Pinot was out of gas. So now when you left and it flipped, a huge void in Chicago radio because no one picked up the slack. Because that was it
blew off the call letters.
Chicago radio was still living in denial
of
what had happened. Chicago radio was still living in denial, basically, of what had happened at BMX. It never acknowledged it, never wanted to acknowledge it, because it sat there and wallowed in its own misery at like a 3 share, while BMX was sitting up there sky high in the numbers. And like you said, now there's a void.
See, I remember being on the street level of it, there wasn't any stations in Chicago doing mix shows from 88 till about 90. Yeah, well, I can't call that a mix show. Yeah, but it was erratic. It wasn't a real show. It was on when it was on, and who knew who was on. Not to discredit the mixers that were on there, because I knew the guys too. It was Edward Crosby and Boogeyman Luna and a bunch of other guys, but they never put anything behind the guys. They never acknowledged them. No. They put them on at 1 a.m.
Right.
No promos, nothing.
I remember running into Elroy at a Summerfest up in Milwaukee. At the time, I was managing the rapper Domino, and I ran into him backstage. And he says, "Lee, let me ask you a question." In only the infamous way, the way his personality. He goes, "What's with this Hot Mix 5 thing? I mean, what does that mean?" And I looked him straight in the eye. I said, "Elroy." He says, "They want to come on the station, but I'm not sure about it." I said, "Elroy, don't think about it. Leave the concert now. Go and put those guys on and watch your radio station go through the roof. Okay?" And he says, "But why?" He kept asking me, why? What makes him so good? What is it? I said, "Don't ask any questions. Just do it. Trust me on that. I'm telling you from experience, it's magical."